Hello and welcome to Steep into Stillness, a space where we slow down together and find gentle ways to move through everyday life. For this moment, we'll focus on a feeling that shows up quietly for a lot of people, the sense of feeling behind compared to friends. Now, it isn't always obvious or easy to name. Sometimes it's just a heaviness that appears after certain conversations, or a thought that lingers after scrolling, or a feeling that settles in when milestones come up and don't seem to line up the same way. Feeling behind often begins with noticing differences in grades, plans, confidence, relationships, or direction. One person seems certain, another appears to be moving forward quickly, and somewhere in the middle of that, comparison takes hold. What makes this feeling complicated is that it doesn't always come from wanting what someone else has. Often it comes from wondering why progress feels uneven, why growth seems to come easily to others while feeling slow or unclear here. There's also the pressure of visibility. So much of life is shared, talked about, and displayed, especially during school years. Achievements are noticeable, changes are public, and the quieter parts of growth tend to stay hidden. It becomes easy to assume that movement is constant for everyone else, that clarity arrives early, that there's a correct order to things, and that falling out of that order means that you're falling behind. But in reality, life rarely moves in straight lines. It moves in pauses and in shifts, in moments of clarity followed by long stretches of uncertainty. Some people find direction early, others circle around for years, and many people change paths more than once. The idea of being behind often comes from measuring growth as something visible and measurable. Grades, positions, outcomes, titles, but a lot of growth doesn't look like progress from the outside. There's growth in confusion, there's growth in pausing, there's growth in realizing something isn't working and not yet knowing what comes next. Expectation plays a role too. The quiet assumption that by a certain age, things should already make sense, that confidence should arrive on schedule, that uncertainty is something to move past quickly. But uncertainty is often a sign of awareness, of noticing complexity instead of rushing through it, and that kind of awareness usually takes time. Feeling behind can also carry urgency, the sense that time is running out, that everyone else is moving forward, and staying still, even briefly, feels risky. But staying still doesn't always mean falling behind. Sometimes it means noticing what hasn't been processed yet. Sometimes it means needing rest before movement can happen again. Not every chapter is meant to look impressive. Some chapters are slower, heavier, less visible, and those chapters still matter. Then there's the question of what comes next. Not in a way that demands a decision and not in a way that assumes clarity, just the understanding that movement is still possible, even when direction feels unclear. Moving forward doesn't always begin with certainty. Often it begins with something much quieter, a small point of interest or a moment that feels slightly less heavy than the rest. There might be a class that doesn't feel as draining, a topic that holds attention a little longer, a conversation that lingers afterward. These things don't always feel important at first, but they're often where movement starts. From there, movement doesn't need to be immediate or dramatic. It can look like noticing that interest again when it shows up, letting curiosity repeat itself, allowing something to exist without deciding what it means right away. Over time, those small moments begin to form a pattern. Not a plan, just a direction. Something that feels a little more possible than before. Sometimes movement looks like trying something once without knowing where it'll lead. Then maybe trying it again. Letting experience gather before conclusions are drawn. And sometimes movement looks like realizing something isn't right, and allowing that realization to matter. Stepping away, letting go, and making space for something to eventually take its place. Progress doesn't always come from knowing where things are going. It often comes from responding honestly to what's already happening. There's room for change without urgency, room for exploration without pressure, and room for growth that doesn't need to be explained or compared. This feeling doesn't need to be resolved right now. It doesn't need to be fixed or explained away. It can simply be noticed, named, and allowed to exist, without comparison and without rushing toward an answer. Thank you for taking this moment to slow down with me. This has been Steep into Stillness.